I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello there.
Hello and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast for JoyClicks. My name's Mike Connors, and as always, I have my Chewie, because I'm Buryaga, Christian Buckley. Christian, how are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. This is episode 70. I feel like it's kind of a milestone.
Yeah.
No, episode 66 was definitely more of a milestone.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's
How are
funny.
you?
It's funny because 70 is such a huge number. It's like 7 sets of 10. But because we celebrated
It is.
episode 66, it's like we just had a celebration, but because it's a Star Wars show, who cares about these high 10-digit factors, you know? It's about the meme numbers. It's about 66 and 99 and 501st.
I like how you had to say that 70 was 7 sets of 10. Thank you for breaking down the mathematics.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot, right? You think about that. That's a big. It's a lot of tens.
Yeah, it's a lot of tens, Christian. So have you been doing anything Star Wars recently? You've been watching anything, playing anything, or?
Not a ton. Of course, I've been doing my KOTOR playthrough every Friday on my Twitch account. We're in the middle of Manon right now,
Okay, all right.
so I still have I have Korriban and Tatooine left on the map as it stands, and I think I probably have like a thing or two after all that to beat the game, but probably a couple more weeks of KOTOR.
Nice, nice. I myself have not been doing anything. I do want to start reading Into the Dark though, sometime soon, because yeah, I think that would be something cool we could talk about on the podcast at some point for sure.
Definitely.
But I think we should start this episode off as we always do with From the Jedi Archives. This is a segment where Christian and I both choose a page from Wikipedia, which is the Star Wars wiki, and we educate each other on what we chose. So this could be a Legends, canon, and since I'm the one who's in the pilot seat today, my Chewie, Christian, I think you should go first.
Sure. Well, Mike, what if I told you I have another Wookiee that I want to talk
Okay,
about?
you chose a Wookiee. All right, yeah.
So I was playing KOTOR, and like to my surprise, I come across this brother of Zalbar. His name is Chundar. He's got It's Chuundar. So it's like I saw that, I was like, hey, what the hell?
That's you, man.
Yeah.
That would be. I think honestly, you're no longer my Chewie. You're my Chundar.
Yeah, Chundar and Buryaga. There you go.
It's so funny.
Chundar was a Wookiee chieftain and son of Chieftain Freyr, and brother of Zalbar. Chundar was born a runt on the planet Kashyyyk, as they call it in KOTOR, which I hate.
Yeah.
In a bid for power and wealth, he began secretly leading Zerka Corporation operatives to Wookiee hunters in the Shadowlands to capture and sell as slaves. His brother Zalbar found out about his treachery and angrily confronted him, going so far as to attack him with his claws, which is very frowned upon in Wookiee culture, in the EU at least.
Ah, yes.
Their father, bound by Wookiee tradition, had Zalbar exiled from Kashyyyk for being a mad claw. Chundar then began spreading rumors of Freyr's madness and eventually seized power from his father to control the Wookiees.
Wait, so I guess maybe you don't want to be Chundar.
Yeah, I was reading that and I was like, you know what? Maybe not.
Wait, so he was a runt. That would mean that he's what, like 6'5" or something like that?
I don't. Let me see.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Because I would assume that still a runt of the Wookiees are still a large being indeed.
Yeah. From playing the game, he didn't seem super different size-wise next to Zalbar. So like, who's to say? Maybe that is just like a headcanon thing. But for those that are curious, in my playthrough, Chundar died in a warrior's combat between his brother and the player protagonist. Brutally murdered this Wookiee.
Well, that was a great pick.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I chose another thing from the KOTOR world, actually.
Okay.
So I chose Darth Nihilus. I don't
Mm.
know. I don't think any of us have chosen him. Also known as the Lord of Hunger. Uh, he was a human male who reigned as Dark Lord of the Sith during the era of strife. He lost everything before becoming a Sith Lord due to the Galactic Republic's war against the Mandalorians. And he basically uh, survived a big cataclysmic event and was just like this Dark Lord of the Sith who could only like survive by feeding off other people's force powers. So he would just like eat their force powers essentially, which is
Yeah.
just really interesting.
So I I don't know if this is a KOTOR 2 spoiler, but isn't his whole thing like he eats planets also? Isn't that a thing?
Yes,
Like,
I believe so.
so at that point he's just Galactus.
Yeah, kind of. He's like the Star Wars Galactus for sure. He makes Emperor Palpatine look very small in
Oh,
comparison.
so like is there a stature difference, or does it really just like does this 5'7" man just walk up to a planet and just start chomping at it, and then all of a sudden it's absorbed in his gut? Like, what? How does this work?
Well, well, I think in the canon eventually he like just transforms fully into like a spirit, so he's like not really alive anymore
Okay.
or something like that. And like he binds his spirit to like his mask and his robes or something like that.
Okay.
Uh,
So like Jim Carrey's The Mask. Like he'll...
yeah, kind of.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, but so it's just he's a cool character. I just always thought his mask was really intimidating looking and
Oh
stuff.
yeah. It's
Um,
I haven't played KOTOR 2, but I know Darth Nihilus based on The Mask because like that's just iconic. That's like the box art for KOTOR 2. You see that and you're like, "Oh, that's new for Star Wars. I haven't seen anything like that."
yeah, no, Star Wars is always big on the very striking visuals for sure, and Darth Nihilus is up there, I have to say.
Mhm. I agree.
Well, yeah, anything else you want to say on Darth Nihilus? Or
Good choice.
cool. All right, so let's move on to some of the news that we got here. We're going to end with something that we're going to talk about in more depth. So, before we get to that, I wanted to talk about this because I really like Battlestar Galactica. Christian, have you watched it?
I never finished it. I watched like 3 seasons of it and greatly enjoyed it though.
Yeah, see, I never finished it either. I don't know why. It's not that I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's just yeah, I watched a fair amount of it and never finished it
Yeah.
for some reason because
That
that's what I do.
that's how I discovered Katie Sackhoff. That's how I was like,
Uh-huh.
she's a badass. Glad she's in Star Wars now because I wanted her in Star Wars when I was watching that show a couple years back. But yeah,
For
she's cool.
sure. Yeah, she played Captain Starbuck, who in
Mhm.
the original Battlestar Galactica was a man.
Mhm.
So that's cool. So the showrunner for Battlestar Galactica, Ronald D. Moore, interestingly said that he wrote Darth Vader scenes for George Lucas's Underworld series. I think this is like the 1313 one. I'm not entirely sure though.
Yeah,
And
it's
that he said that
yeah.
is it the same? I don't know.
I think it's the one that had the leaked footage that we talked about last year, I
Mhm.
think. And like I think like the show Bible also leaked.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. That was all like on a Google Doc actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he talked about writing some Darth Vader scenes for that show, and he also said that he'd love to write for Star Wars again. So I think that's really interesting. And I don't know if he's trying to like drop an idea that like Lucasfilm is hanging out, trying to get his services for writing on Star Wars, but that's just cool. Um, I would love to see him write for Star Wars.
I would also, mainly because I really enjoyed the way, and again, I watched this when I was like 15 maybe, so I could be pulling stuff out of nowhere, but like I remembered enjoying how they wrote the like space militia aspect of Battlestar and like the politics of all of it. So like if they could bring him in and maybe have him write for say Rangers of the New Republic to really flesh out what the New Republic is like in this period between 6 and 7, that'd be super cool. I'd love to have him doing that.
For sure, yeah. Battlestar Galactica is very heavy on the politics and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and as we know, so is Star Wars.
Yeah.
And which is, it could be a benefit when done right.
Mm-hmm.
It adds a lot of depth to stories. I just like what he said. He said, "quote Well, this is in an interview with Hollywood Reporter, by the way. He said, I've got a couple of notions in the back of my head," he said, "of potential Star Wars pitches to Lucasfilm. ideas and arenas that I think would be fun to poke around the corners of the Star Wars universe, which is very cool. I just love how he probably is a fan, obviously, and just probably has been thinking about this stuff since the first time Star Wars came out, the first time he saw it. And it would be
Mhm.
cool to have him work on it for sure.
Yeah, imagine what it was like to be called in to like write for the first ever live action Star Wars television show with George Lucas, and then just got scrapped. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I see they're doing well now. I was the first round pick here. I was there. Like, bring
Yeah,
me
yeah.
back. You
The
know?
man himself, he drafted me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I can
I,
understand that need and want. I would want to be in that situation too if I was in his shoes.
yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, he said, I got a tremendous amount of thrill writing lines for Darth Vader, and
Mhm.
it would be fun to do that again. Of course it was fun.
Yeah.
Like that sounds awesome. And I hope that he comes back because he's a great he's a good showrunner, and I really like Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
So I thought that this was interesting. Moving on to some more TV news, we're going to talk about the Book of Boba Fett now. And Tamora Morrison, according to Reddit, which is like not the greatest source of all time,
Yeah.
but he was interviewed by a New Zealand news program where he said that he was still in LA filming for the upcoming Star Wars show. This was like probably last week, I think.
Hmm.
So that just kind of confirms in a way that they're still working on the show. And I guess during the interview, he was wearing a T-shirt with a logo of the band he formed with Robert Rodriguez called Boba Fett and the Stormtroopers.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I just thought that was funny and interesting. And I guess if anybody wants to go watch that, if anybody wants to go watch that video, they should.
That's super cool. Because I wonder when that started then. Because you assume they would have met on set of Manda season 2, right? Because like,
Yeah.
and there were all those things of like Robert Rodriguez like jamming out with his guitar on set. So like, did they just like have a spark? And then they were like, why don't we name this duo based on some Star Wars characters, some Star Wars lore?
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear some sort of like, original song or something that
Hmm.
comes out of this, or like
I bet the two of them will write a song together to have in universe in Boba's palace for the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, you think so? That would actually be really funny.
Yeah, get Max Rebo out of retirement. Have an original song by Boba Fett and the Stormtroopers being performed by Max Rebo himself.
Right, or the CGI singer in Return of the Jedi that like
Was that Slice Noodles? Is that who it is?
yeah, Slice Noodles, exactly.
Yeah.
We need to bring her back out of retirement.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Yes.
But yeah, that's just interesting that they're still doing it. They're filming right now, so it seems like the end of this year seems like a reasonable time.
Yeah, because what? It's only February. Like they can. We saw this, I think, with Mando season 2 last year. I think we were having similar conversations of like, is it gonna get delayed? Well, maybe a little bit after where we are right now in the year in comparison. But I remember there was the big question of like, hey, they're wrapping up still. Like, when's this gonna go down? Because
Yeah.
I know they were shooting Mando season 2 while we were reviewing season 1, and I think that bled into 2020 a little bit. And because of that weird transition of like, okay, I think they're wrapping shooting now and they should be starting editing, then COVID hit. There was that
Right.
question. But they were able to churn it out from like March to October, and if they're giving themselves until December right now, I think they're probably fine.
Yeah, I think they're definitely fine. I think we've talked about this ad nauseum in the past. Like they've gotten themselves into a groove on how to
Mhm.
make these things.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think December is definitely reasonable.
Mhm.
Um,
I want to see something. I just want to see anything, like an
Yeah,
official
man.
promo poster or something.
we're definitely gonna see something, I'm sure. Probably not until like the fall though.
What can we put our energy into hoping for like an official poster for May the 4th or something?
Oh yeah, we'll probably get some sort of poster. Yeah, I'm sure that we'll get something on May the 4th, but I don't know if we're gonna see any footage anytime soon.
Yeah, because what didn't we have to wait until like August last year for Mando season 2 footage?
Like later than that. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like September.
Yeah, it was a long wait. So
Yeah. Um, Well, so I think that yeah. So we're going to talk about some more TV news here, and this is going back to the Mandalorian, uh, a character that was in season 1 and season 2, and will not be in any future series according to the seasons. According to the Hollywood Reporter, is Gina Carano. Yeah, she's not being recast, according to the Hollywood Reporter, and ac- according to the magazine, that move to cut ties had been brewing for a bit. In the months leading up to the Investor Day presentation on December 10th, Carano's agents were trying to get a sizable bump for the planned spinoff on Disney Plus's The Mandalorian that would feature Cara Dune,
Mm-hmm.
probably Rangers of the New Republic. Um, the Hollywood Reporter said that sources say Cara Dune, or rather Gina Carano, made $25,000 to $50,000 per episode of The Mandalorian, which is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just interesting that she's just not going to be recast according to them, which is fine.
Yeah, I wonder if they just don't even address it, because I think we talked about this a bit last week, where you said and I think you're right. You said that, hey, maybe this is a time jump, like we don't pick up immediately in the command deck of Gideon's ship where we left off in season 2, where like.
Yeah.
I do think it would be cool to see the immediate fallout of that and see like, okay, we have this group, who gets who has jurisdiction over this, who's taken Gideon away, but like, yeah, I think you're probably right where they probably won't even address it. It's just like maybe Grief Karga will say something of like, she went off world, and that's it. I don't know, but they don't even really need to if we do a time jump.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting because the Hollywood Reporter is saying that like industry insiders are saying that she's not being recast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and or rather, industry insiders are saying, yeah, that she's going to be recast, and a source at Lucasfilm is saying that a recasting is not expected.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that might not even happen to begin with.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
to the credit of the Mandalorian so far, I think they got to a really good place, I think, with introducing characters, more so in season 2, introducing new characters and fleshing them out a decent amount, to the point where like I think they could just whatever they wanted out of Cara Dune's role in this world, in this story. I think you could easily introduce a new character in season 3 and fill that role, or I know, like we mentioned last week, maybe have Casca Reeves, Sasha Banks' character, have her to
Right.
like step up and be a bigger influence, or maybe bring back Mayfeld. Maybe he's still kicking, and like
Yeah.
people loved him this season. I think more than season 1, and clearly, I know Bill Burr in the past always has like had a history of like clowning on Star Wars, kind of, but it seems like he had a really good time with season 2 at least. So like maybe bring him back. I don't know.
I think they should bring Mayfeld back, man. I when they like killed him off, he didn't really die
Yeah.
in that episode. Like I was kind of disappointed. I thought that they would like he would become like part of the crew,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because I thought that he just like worked really well. I just think he's a great actor, Bill Burr.
Yeah, because also consider his character was sort of meant to be a foil for Gina Carano's, where they were both like ex factions in this historied war in Star Wars, right? Like the Galactic Civil War, I think, or no, that was the other one. But like the Rebels Against the Empire, right? They both
Yeah.
stood for those sides, and they kind of like tapered off. And in this era of the New Republic, neither of them really had a place in the world. They were just still people.
Right.
And because they were kind of opposites and similar in that way, I feel like he could probably work him in also to hit the same sort of growth of character they probably projected for Cara Dune. I don't know.
Yeah, there is one part of Cara Dune, like Cara Dune's character, that I thought was interesting. The fact that like she was from Alderaan,
Mm-hmm.
and I was interested in seeing that explored more.
Yeah.
So in a way, like that's kind of disappointing. But you could always just like introduce another character that is from Alderaan,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah, or
so
you could like just give it to another character we already know, then don't know their backstory. Like say Grief Karga is actually from Alderaan, who knows? And then he moved out there.
Right. Yeah, and you just never mentioned it
Yeah.
because, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, even if she's not recast, like it doesn't even matter. I don't even think that she was that big of a character anyway. She didn't really matter much to the story, to be quite honest.
Hmm.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fine.
Mhm.
So why don't we move on to the next piece of news? I think that's it that we have for TV news. But what we have here is something for book news, and I thought this was interesting because I had read the first in this trilogy before, and this trilogy is coming to an end. E.K. Johnston, the Padme trilogy that she has been writing, is ending with Star Wars Queen's Hope, and that's coming out November 2nd. It follows Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril. I think Queen's Peril came out in 2020.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so that's all ending with this new book. Apparently, it's going to detail the end days of the Republic from Padme's point of view. And on the cover, you can tell that that's probably accurate because she's wearing some clothes from Revenge of the Sith. Um, and yeah, so this is interesting. I didn't read Queen's Peril. I read Queen's Shadow. I thought Queen's Shadow was really interesting. I know Queen's Peril like kind of goes back in time,
Hmm.
and so I guess this is just gonna end with her death. It must, right?
Yeah. So I wonder then if this is it's because it sounds like the way you're saying about the one you read and then its follow up that they're kind of standalone, sort of like obviously they're probably building
Yeah,
off of what's been written, but they're jumping around in her life. Like
yeah,
I might maybe check this one out because I think that's a really interesting perspective of seeing Padme's point of view on the Revenge of the Sith plot. We got Ahsoka's point of view last year, so like if we get Padme's point of view this year, that's super cool.
I have to say, like Queen Shadow is really interesting.
Mhm,
Like it's one of the better Star Wars books that I've read for
mhm,
sure. That one follows Padme when she's becoming a senator for like the very first time.
mhm.
Like she just finished becoming she just finished being queen, and now she's elected to the Senate, and sort of follows her like on Coruscant, like in those first days of being a senator, and that's really interesting. Queen's Peril, I know, goes back in time to the invasion of Naboo, and details her being queen. And so, now we're going back to the Senate and stuff. I always liked the politics of Star Wars. I thought Bloodline by Claudia Gray, which sort of just follows Leia's Senate career, was
Mhm.
really interesting. So let's bring on more Senate stuff.
Sure.
I'm down for Queen's Hope, man.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I forgot to mention this to you. Kayla recently picked up the novelization of Revenge of the Sith because that's her
Oh,
favorite movie, and she wanted to get
yeah.
into Star Wars books. So like that was the one that she grabbed because I forget. Did you read the novelization of Revenge of the Sith?
Like as a kid, I
Yeah,
skimmed it, I think. Yeah.
yeah. Because I've seen it pop up a few times, especially on like
Yeah.
Star Wars TikTok. People have been like, "Oh yeah, the way the interaction plays out when Anakin's not granted Master is super different in the book. Like the way he reacts to it, and like the Mace Windu's way more bitter about it. So like she was interested in it, but as a follow up, maybe I'll point her to this because she likes Padme. So it sounds cool.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked E.K. Johnston's writing style. I think technically Queen's Shadow is like a young adult novel, but didn't really feel like it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm excited for this. She also said to StarWars.com, I thought this was really funny. I wanted to name this book Queen's Gambit, but then there was that thing on Netflix, and we couldn't name it Queen's Gambit anymore. But I fell on Queen's Hope almost immediately because to me that's what Padme is about. No matter how hard things get, she gets up and keeps going, which is one of my favorite things that Star Wars characters do. That's really funny to me.
Yeah, it's funny because when you told me the title, I was like, "Oh, A New Hope." Clearly, if this is the final Padme
Mm,
thing, if it ends with her death, then perfect. New Hope is what comes after. But that's funny. That's funny. They wanted a
yeah,
Queen's Gambit.
yeah, no, that's so funny, dude. Um, no, but I really like what she says about Padme. No matter how hard things get, she gets up and keeps going. I think she's a really, she's very strong in that way, and I
Yeah,
like her character a lot.
definitely.
So let's move on to games. So we went from TV to books to games, and we got a new Star Wars game, Christian. But it may not be what people were expecting. Do
This
you want
is
to?
this is a monkey's paw situation, Mike. This is what this is.
I'm not familiar with that reference actually.
It's
but...
I know it's like a classic story, but I also know it from The Simpsons of like there's this magic monkey's paw, you make a wish with it, and then it's like a genie thing. It's like, oh, it doesn't turn out the way you expect it. There's a dark twist to it.
Okay.
It's like, oh yeah, I'd love a new Star Wars game. Then we get hit with, it's like, okay, here's one from Zynga. It's a free-to-play mobile game, basically.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So yeah, this was debuted at the Nintendo Direct last week, which you and I were both speculating that maybe Republic Commando for Switch would show up there because that was leaked. It did not. What we got instead was, we did get a Star Wars announcement, but it was like this 20-second trailer. It said like calling all hunters was the intro, and the trailer shows like what I thought could have been maybe like that Mandalorian mode in Fortnite, but then it's just the art style, and then blast doors open up. Looks like it might be like a Jabba's palace situation, maybe based on the environment. It pans through, and then some holograms pop up of like what looks to be a Sith character or like a dark red lightsaber Jedi. I don't know. And then
I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, and then we saw like some troopers, and as I saw the holograms, and it was like, okay, clearly these are different classes. Immediately, what came to mind, because it was holograms, was Galaxy of Heroes.
Yeah, same.
And then the trailer progresses, and then like we get another blast door opening, and we see nothing really because it's clouded by dust and sand. But there's blaster fire, there's a lightsaber that deflects a few things, and then we get Star Wars Hunters in this like neon Miami orange font.
Yeah.
Coming 2021, courtesy of Zynga.
Yeah, man. I don't even like. So that was at first like the only thing that they released, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then they were able to they eventually sort of elaborated on it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo America, yeah, they said that it's a squad-based combat game. It'll be free to play, and I guess StarWars.com confirmed that gamers will be able to team up with their friends against other teams of fighters in arenas. So,
now, let me be clear: there are plenty of games that can have that description that I really like. Like,
yeah, fair.
Yeah,
fair.
Like I like arena combat games for multiplayer. I like squad-based multiplayer. I enjoy Fortnite. You and I play Apex with Jack. Like squad-based stuff is probably my preferred form of multiplayer. Fortnite and Apex are both free to play. You can do this well.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't look like it's gonna be good.
Well, yeah, because like we didn't even see anything. Like that, the entire trailer was just like pre-rendered, right? Like it was just CGI.
Yeah.
There was no gameplay there. And it's coming this year. Don't know when. Presumably second half, if they didn't even show what it looks like. All I want to say, there's a world where I love this, and that doesn't mean it's gonna be good. There's plenty of games that I really enjoy that are trash fires, but
yeah.
I think that there might be something fun here if that simple loop of like, if combat at least feels good, if communication with your friends to get through and win stuff is fun, then like that's all you really need. If it's cool lightsaber Battlefront stuff, why not? You know?
That's the thing. Yeah, it like on paper it sounds good, right? Like, oh, a Star Wars squad-based combat game that's free to play. It kind of sounds like, Fortnite, right? And it sounds like a battle royale kind of thing.
Yeah, if they made a Star Wars battle royale that was like Fortnite, I think that'd be super fun. Fortnite added vehicles. They had like a Star Wars event. If they made a Star Wars battle royale that was like that, I'd play it all the time. You know?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not trying to like bash it because like it's Zynga and everything, and like yeah, but like yeah, I think you definitely are right. Like there is a possibility that this comes out and it surprises people. Like certainly nobody thought that Fortnite was gonna, like at first.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they did. Probably they did. But like, you know what I mean? It's just I've been surprised in the past, Christian, and I'm ready to be surprised again because on paper, like I said, this does sound fun.
Yeah.
And like you said, you and I both like these squad-based combat games. So
Mhm.
why couldn't this one be good?
Yeah, like
Um,
I wouldn't be surprised if this also hits okay. I'm at StarWars.com right now. I'm looking at this. It's gonna be a free download on the Switch, and it's also coming to the App Store and Google Play. So yes, it's probably just a mobile game that is ported to Switch, which again doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. There's plenty of good mobile games. There's mobile games I enjoy. Like
sure.
I tried COD Mobile like last year. That was like surprisingly competent, And like I
Yeah,
tried
yeah.
Fortnite Mobile. That worked fine too.
Can we also talk about the fact that, I know that we're joking that it's like Zynga,
Hmm.
but like, they've made like popular video games in the past.
Yeah.
Like Farmville was like a hit.
Hmm.
Not saying that like it was the apex of gaming, but
Right.
like,
Hmm.
for what it was popular, it got people engaged and like people played it and I probably still play it to this day, honestly.
Yeah. Um.
I know my mom played like poker, a Zynga poker game a lot.
Sure. I think what people could worry about is that free to play and Zynga also implies microtransactions to a certain degree.
This is
Um.
true, yeah.
Again, if we just want to rip off the Fortnite thing and it's a battle pass and it's all cosmetics, cool. But I also have from StarWars.com like a slight description that gives a little bit more insight to what the game actually is if you want to hear
Yeah.
it. Set after the fall of the Galactic Empire, Star Wars hunters will connect players in real time to battle in arena settings inspired by iconic Star Wars locales, play as daring bounty hunters, heroes of the rebellion, and an Imperial Stormtrooper, just one, and an
Oh,
action
okay.
game that immerses players in fast-paced and visually stunning Star Wars conflict. So
Okay. I
again,
mean,
on paper,
prove me.
you know,
I was just gonna say, prove me wrong. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like Mike, if you have a Switch when this hits, we will be playing this. I guarantee you. Like we're gonna play it a
Yeah.
bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, I've downloaded Galaxy of Heroes on my phone.
Yeah, I
I've
think it's
I've put.
on mine right now.
Yeah, it's probably on mine too.
It
Like
is.
like so it's one of those things. Like it's probably gonna have that kind of vibe,
Hmm.
and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think.
Yeah. Um, One other thing that I think is relevant.
Yeah.
At this Nintendo Direct, they also had a game reveal as a port for the Switch. It was some port of some like zombie game, but I saw it was from Asper, who we were talking about last week. But Mike, I found out that is not how you pronounce that company.
Oh, really?
It is
So for the past 3 weeks, we've been
yes,
pronouncing it wrong.
Aspyr is pronounced aspire, which makes so much more sense.
I feel like that makes less sense.
Well, yeah,
As,
but sometimes
as
like they throw in like a Y instead of an IE for some things, and just like
okay.
it. Like I think honestly, if they pronounce it aspire and they have all this ambition to make a $90 million KOTOR game, you know what? Yeah, aspire. It's the right choice.
Sure, yeah, they're definitely aspiring.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think we should move on to the next little bit of news that we have. We don't have to dwell that much time on this one, but there is going to be a new Boba Fett Hot Toys, and it looks sick AF. I don't know if you opened it up and looked at the pictures, Christian, but it's a 1/6 scale Boba Fett. Uh, and it's basically what Boba Fett looks like before he got his armor in The Mandalorian, and Boba Fett after he gets his armor in The Mandalorian. And I'm pretty sure it's just the same figure, but you just like can customize it in certain ways, and it looks so freaking cool, very detailed, and I just love it. It's probably like $1,000 though.
Yeah, I'm upset that I opened this because I loved the cloak look, like the cloak with the armor on it. Every week of every week after he was introduced, it's like, where's the Black Series? Where's the Black Series of the new Boba Fett? I hope it's still coming because I don't want to drop like $400 on this, but that is a very cool looking figure.
Yeah, is it $400? I didn't.
I'd assume like Hot Toys is a couple hundred minimum. So
Hot Toys makes some like really cool figures, man.
yeah, like there's a unrelated, but like you know the PS4 Spider-Man with like the white spider? They have like a sick Hot Toys of that, and it looks so good. And I kind of want it for the shelf, but I'm not going to drop money on it.
Fair enough. I did see somewhere, I'm not sure if this is actually real or not, but like they had a Black Series figure of like Boba Fett, but without the armor. He was just like in the black cloak and stuff like that. I don't know if that was real though.
I
don't know if you'd sell that.
I follow like 2 different Instagram accounts that do like sort of set photography for Black Series figures. I'll try and find what they are, but I know a couple of them do custom figures just for stuff.
Okay, so it might have just been that or something. But
yeah. Hold on.
I'm sure one of these days though, Christian, like that's just too much of a opportunity for Hasbro and Disney to just make like that version of Boba Fett, you know.
Yeah.
We have all the other versions. We might as well have that one.
I'll shout out Star Wars The Black Series, one word, on Instagram. They do some pretty sick photography of some Black Series figures in like...
Oh, yeah, those guys, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a fan page that just is all about it. Also, Star Wars Toy Picks with an X instead of C. They also do something similar of like photography. I'll send you this one, Mike. I'll hold it up to the camera. I don't know how well it'll show up, but like they did like Vader in season 7 of Clone Wars in the snow, like holding Ahsoka's lightsaber and stuff. Like there's some pretty cool stuff for the fan photos.
I've seen these before, Christian. They're really cool. I think I also follow Star Wars The Black Series because the photography that they do is like really, or that guy does, is really interesting. And also, I'm pretty sure in some of them, oh, you just sent it to me. It's very cool. There is one of those pages that I follow that, like, you know, the first photo on Instagram is like the photo that they made. And then like there are like a few other photos and it's like behind the scenes, like how he set it up and stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
And that's really cool. But yep. So after after talking about toys, we got to talk about the movies. So this is what we did. We hit the TV, we hit the books, we hit the toys, and now we're about to hit the movies. Rian Johnson reportedly confirmed that his Star Wars trilogy is still happening. So that's big news. He apparently sat down for an interview with author Soraya Wilson. I saw her Twitter page. I guess she's written a few books. Who subsequently confirmed on Twitter that Johnson's previously announced Star Wars trilogy is still in the works. This author said it has, quote, no dates or timelines because Rian Johnson has other projects going on, but it is happening.
I am over the moon.
Yeah?
Yes, because it was in question a little bit after Investor Day. Did not mention that trilogy at all. But I do think we talked about this, I think last year, pre-pandemic maybe, of Rian Johnson saying like Knives Out 2 is next and then it's Star Wars. Like he did say that pretty recently.
Yeah.
So
I think we definitely talked about that.
Yeah, so I understand the people who are doubting it, and I understand the people who are still doubting it, of like, oh yeah, trust me, I'm not going to give you a date, but my Star Wars project that I'm working on is also coming eventually. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess in a way though, like if he was just saying that was going to happen, like if he was just going out there being like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally still working on it, you know, and that wasn't true, don't you think like Lucasfilm would try to just like shut that down as quick as possible?
Yeah, also if it was actually dead, because we went, like, I think he had that comment that it was after Knives Out in like February of last year, and then we heard nothing else throughout all of 2020. If it was actually dead, they just wouldn't say anything about it anymore. They just wouldn't address it. But here he is, a year later, saying like, yeah, still coming, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Here's the thing. I feel like Ryan Johnson is the type of, and I don't know him at all, but like I feel like he's the type of guy to like invest everything that he's doing in like one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Like, I just like I don't know, like it just probably doesn't make sense for him from like an artistic standpoint to like be working on his Star Wars trilogy like to the fullest of his extent while he's also tried to like bust out Knives Out too. You know,
Hmm.
like give the man some space to breathe. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Because like,
You know, I think to me, The Last Jedi has like really grown on me over time. Uh, Christian, I know that you're really happy about that.
mhm.
uh, and so yeah, I think he, as an artist, he just needs some time.
Yeah, and like also for the everyone who was like super doubtful of it happening last year, like Knives Out is like smaller movie, but it's still like a movie. It takes time. You know.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, like I think you're right, Mike, in that he seems like somebody who is like, hey, focuses on this for now. But I do think that maybe his trilogy's written already. I don't know.
Oh,
I could be
well,
misremembering, but I think he might have written it already. I don't remember.
I'm sure he's got a treatment,
Yeah, yeah.
at, at least like he or at least like a very detailed outline.
Hmm.
Um, but like I don't think he's written the screenplays for all three of them.
Right, yeah. I don't mean like final draft or anything, but like whatever arc he wants to do, I think is probably done. Like the
Yeah.
base, like his idea. It's not like Knives Out 2 is going to come out in a year in like 2022, and he's like, all right,
Yeah.
let's get cracking on this Star Wars trilogy. Like, I don't think that's what's going to happen.
No, no, yeah, no. I mean, like, yeah, you're definitely right. Let's think about it like this. He spent all that time working on the Last Jedi and stuff. You gotta think like he got the job to do his trilogy somehow, right?
Hmm.
Like he probably came to Disney Lucasfilm like with an idea.
Yeah, I have the official announcement pulled up from StarWars.com from 2017. If you want me to read through it real quick, just for context.
Oh, it was from that long ago. When
Yeah,
when in 2017?
November 9th. It was because it was announced like a month before
Wow.
Last Jedi came out, and because I
Wow.
remember, I was like, oh baby, now I'm even more excited for Last Jedi because clearly Disney loved working with him. They're really happy with what he did for Last Jedi that they want to keep him his own thing. Um, so from StarWars.com, November 9th, 2017, the headline is Rian Johnson, writer-director of Star Wars The Last Jedi, to create all-new Star Wars trilogy. For director Rian Johnson, The Last Jedi was just the beginning of his journey of galaxy far, far away. Lucasfilm is excited to announce that Johnson will create a brand new Star Wars trilogy, the first of which he is also set to write and direct, with longtime collaborator Ram Bergman on board to produce. As writer-director of Last Jedi, Johnson conceived and realized a powerful film of which Lucasfilm and Disney are immensely proud. In shepherding this new trilogy, which is separate from the episodic Skywalker saga, Johnson will introduce new characters from a corner of the galaxy that Star Wars lore has never explored before. We all love working with Rian on The Last Jedi, said Kathleen Kennedy. He's a creative force, and watching him craft The Last Jedi from start to finish was one of the great joys of my career. Rian will do amazing things with the blank canvas of this new trilogy. And then Johnson and Bergman said, we had the time of our lives collaborating with Lucasfilm and Disney on The Last Jedi. Star Wars is the greatest modern mythology, and we feel very lucky to have contributed to it. We can't wait to continue with this new series of films.
Yeah, man. It sounds like he already had an idea,
Yeah. Like,
which makes sense.
also worth pointing out, it's his trilogy. So, like, out from the get, we have an arc, Like, we have a creative vision for what the story is going for. StarWars.com does detail that he's writing and directing the first one. But if it's
Yeah,
his trilogy, like you said, that outline, that arc is still his, and he can conceived that. So there will be a through line ahead of time.
yeah, it sounds like they're doing with Ryan Johnson's trilogy what they should have done with the sequel trilogy,
Sure.
which is head into it with an idea from start to finish, and then whoever created it, maybe they can start it off with the first one and then hand it off, right?
Yeah.
But instead of having each new director sort of approaching it with its own vision and having it being an incomplete story when you start it, this sounds like it's on a better direction from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because go ahead.
No, continue.
Because I was gonna say, if it's like, if he's writing and directing the first one, like, I would bet that the draft is ready. Like if in 2017, because Knives Out came out in 2019, if in 2017 this was signed after they wrapped Last Jedi, like a month before Last Jedi came out, post-production probably ended for Last Jedi, you'd assume, in like September maybe, or like maybe October. So he had like a good month, and then a little bit longer after Last Jedi came out, before Knives Out became a thing. And then since 2019, he's been working on Knives Out too. But like, I think there's enough time in there to like have a draft for a movie for an outline you already probably pitched to Disney.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, he had to have gone to like a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy and some like Lucasfilm execs and Disney execs and had an idea,
Right.
Or maybe it was something that he wanted to do for episode 8, but they were like, "Yo, that's like, it's like a little bit out of the Skywalker saga zone."
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
like great idea, but maybe we should just figure out another way to tell that story,
Mm-hmm. Because it's interesting you point that out specifically, because they do say new characters from a corner of the galaxy that Star Wars lore has never explored. What does that mean?
Well, that kind of gets into the discussion point that I wanted to bring up, Christian.
Okay.
This is sort of open-ended, but like, what would you want to see from this new trilogy? When you hear the words, corner of the galaxy that's never been explored, when Kathleen Kennedy calls it a blank canvas, that could mean a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that like you hope Rian Johnson's thinking about when he's writing this trilogy?
So, if we want to go truly new, like not even touching on EU stuff, I've always thought it would be very interesting to explore what the future is like in Star Wars.
Yep.
Right? Because it's always long time ago, and everything is so advanced. That's why it was so mystical, because it's like, oh, this is supposed to be ancient compared to where we are in our timeline as humans, but it's so advanced. Like, what's the future look like in Star? Like, that could be something really cool to explore from his perspective, I think, with his creativity. If you've seen some of his original sci-fi stuff, like Looper and Brick, him being able to integrate that and like use that creative spark of sci-fi for Star Wars and break new ground, maybe like 1,000 years after the rise of Skywalker, or maybe honestly 10,000. Just jump super far ahead, do something new and wild. That'd be awesome.
Totally. That would be so cool, dude. Like, Looper honestly is like I'd say like one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made. Like, it's so good. And like it was very hyped up when it came out, and then like kind of disappeared. Like, not a lot of people talk about it anymore. But for sure, like, he does a lot. He has like a very creative way about him, especially with like Looper and everything, how he deals with like time travel and stuff. If we're going into the future of Star Wars, like, you got to think that the technology is like, you can't even fathom how advanced it is, like, because if it's that advanced, a long time ago, how advanced is it 10,000 years after a long time ago?
Yeah, and like, what does civilization look like in the future of Star Wars? Like, it's called Star Wars, so obviously there's going to be some galactic conflict, but like, does that evolve from what we've seen already a long time ago? I think that idea, like, I can imagine him going to a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy after they finish Last Jedi, and because it's like, okay, I have a pitch, I just want to give it to you, and like, he opens with like 10,000 years after all of it, like, what's the future of Star Wars? What's the future of a galaxy far, far away?
Just what does it look like?
Yeah, lead with that. I'm sure if he led with that, it's like, okay, trilogy, there you go. Like, that's such a cool idea.
It is so cool. I mean, like, it's just, it opens up so many questions. Like, what happens to Force users? Like obviously, or maybe not obviously. Like what happens to the Jedi and the Sith and everything like that? Do those just sort of fade away into time, and
Yeah.
like the Force is the only thing that sort of just remains?
Hmm.
Like there are a lot of different ways you can take that, and I think it's like it could get very philosophical, like very interesting, and yeah, man, like that would be very cool. Everybody thinks about the old Republic, but
Yes.
what about the new Republic?
Which one? I feel like we've had three of them.
Yeah, I have no idea. The
Yeah.
one 10,000 years into the future, Christian, that one.
Yeah, like I don't know, cuz like I think a common complaint I remember about the sequels is that like with the prequels it felt like they introduced such a new look to so many things in that galaxy, and from the prequels to the original trilogy it's like from Phantom Menace to A New Hope it's probably like what 30-40 years maybe, probably
Mhm.
30. And then with the Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens, it's almost the same amount of time, and it feels like nothing changed, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, like, what is that like if you just get super far ahead, right? You separate all of that. Like, what's the politics like? Is there still democracy? Like, is there an empire? Is there even a republic anymore? Is everything just socialist in the Star Wars future? I don't know. Like, is religion
Yeah,
a thing
man.
still? Like, I don't know. I think that's super interesting. And you can
Yeah, like
still find a way to retain the feeling of Star Wars in any time period. Like we've seen that already with KOTOR and with High Republic. Like you are separating yourselves significantly from what the original story of Star Wars is, but it still maintains that feeling. So it completely blank slate if we jump a super far future, but I think it can still retain that feeling and identity, you know?
yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it's just the fact that it's in that same universe. Like, it's going to be like that future of Star Wars is just only going to be informed by the previous Star Wars that we've read, that
Mhm.
we've watched, all that stuff. So it's just like, how is that, like, what place does that have in the overall Star Wars history, right?
Yeah.
Like when we think about, like the Roman Empire, they're so far away in our history, but they've had such a huge impact. Like when we go far ahead in the Star Wars future, what sort of impact did all of these things that, happened in these movies and in these TV shows, what sort of impact did that have on the universe and the galaxy as a whole? And I think that that's a really interesting thing to explore, Christian. I didn't even think about that. I was going to go I was going to go in the direction of what about that kid at the end of the of the last Jedi? We're going to get a new trilogy about him. But no, you just completely blew it out of the water. That would be amazing for sure.
Because I think like also consider this too. If we needed to have something that's locked in still to draw it back to the originals, which at that point I don't think we should, but if we did,
Mhm.
you got Grogu. Jump 800 years in the future, Grogu's Yoda's age, and just make him not like Yoda. You know, there you
This is
go.
true. This is true.
Yeah,
Though we don't know what John Favreau and Dave Filoni have
right.
in
Mhm.
in store for Sir Grogu.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So, like, I'm saying, if you need to, that's your
yeah,
gateway.
if you really need to. Though I do like the idea of just going so far ahead in the future that's just like biologically impossible that
Yeah.
anyone alive, like no one would be alive.
Five
Um,
thousand years. There you go. And I think it could still be cool because, like, if the Force is still around, and I like your idea of like the Force being the thing that is the only mainstay, like the Jedi and Sith are gone.
well, the force connects all things. It's
Yeah,
not like I don't think that there's a choice. I think the force will always be there.
yeah. I do think since the Force will remain, obviously, like jump 5,000 years after the end of Rise of Skywalker. That's where this trilogy takes off. Introduce this new world, the new rules, everything. No Jedi, no Sith, and then I
Yep.
think you have an opportunity to like set up what the world is like, and maybe by the end of the trilogy or something, you have our main character discover that history, and then it's like, okay, now what's it like if we try to if our main character of this trilogy tries to bring the ideals of the Jedi or of the Sith into or both, into this modern, far separate universe, and like try to redefine what a Jedi and Sith are way after the fact. Like, look back on the Skywalker saga as just a little blip in the greater universe. That I think that is so interesting, and Rian Johnson would probably have a field day making that story.
For sure. Like, just think about it. Like, what would a modern Star Wars look like? Just like, I don't know. It makes me think of, like, you ever seen the movie Her?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It kind of just like makes me think of like that kind of feel, that kind of vibe in like modern Star Wars. I think that would be super cool, dude. Like, yeah, like obviously the Force would still be there. That's the whole, like, George Lucas says, like, the Force connects everything. Like, you can't get rid of that, and like everybody, every living thing is connected by that field, that plane of existence, right? And like, it's taking that into a future sense and just being like, how does that affect what's going on? That's just really a good idea.
Yeah, and when I say far future, I'm not talking like Rian Johnson's trilogy takes place in the year 2020 and like people have cell phones. That's not what I mean.
No, I know, but like, I just mean, like, if you think about like Star Wars from, like, I don't know, just like making it modern in a way. Like,
I get you.
I don't know. It's just a good idea, Christian. That's all. I was just thinking at the top of my head.
Yeah. I personally, I would love that. I think that's such an interesting idea, and you give yourself that freedom, right, to not be tied down. So that way, once you sell that new take, once you really make it work, you can introduce those concepts that people love about these 11 movies we already have, and I think, again, bringing those into a fully established, like, it's like if you brought, like, Mike, I like your comparison with the Roman Empire. Like, pretend like we never discovered the Romans, right?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, pretend that the implications of that aren't actually what they would be. Like, we still have society the way it is, but we never knew about the Romans.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, we're going about our lives. It's a story that takes place in like the way we live as a society. And then all of a sudden one day we find out about the Roman Empire and what kind of repercussions that would have on society today. Like, I think that's a really interesting thing if you introduce, again, the Star Wars universe's modern timeline or future timeline, and then try to retroactively make sense in this new take that they set up what the Empire was, what the Rebellion was, what the Jedi and Sith were. That's so cool.
Yeah, and like what that means, and like, I think it's also really interesting. I've heard Rian Johnson talk about, like, a lot about the concept of like what is like a legend, when he was creating The Last Jedi, because at that point, like, Luke Skywalker was gone for such a long time that he had sort of just like risen into a legend status. And I think that there's a lot of different ways you can sort of take that theme and take that idea, that if you were to create a trilogy that's 10,000 years into the future, I don't know, he can do a lot with like what to, I don't know, just there's a lot to explore in the sense of like what do legends actually mean? Like, what about these characters that were in the past, when they start to learn about this past and everything, like, how does that influence like their storytelling, or just like how they live in the society? I guess it's just interesting.
Yeah, like, again, I don't want to like get too hypothetical, but I could see a world too. We're talking about these legends and like interpreting legends and the way it's important to preserve history. Like, what if this far future, there's our antagonist or whatever is like somebody who discovers the writings of Sheev, and he's like, wow, these Jedi people like knew how to play this system and they sucked. I can do that. I can say like, I'm starting this thing called the Jedi Order and be super manipulative, and then like the protagonist is going against the modern Jedi. Or, like, there's so many cool things you can do with Star Wars on that level, because Star Wars, I think, with the benefit of having its universe with such a fleshed out timeline, also exists in our own like pop culture timeline in a way that we have our own attachments to them and understandings of things, where seeing people sort of introduced to these concepts could be really, really interesting. And if it was anyone other than Rian Johnson trying to tackle that, I can understand the worry that people might have from listening to this conversation, but I think he gets it. I really think he gets this series.
Oh, he definitely gets it. Like, the more I watch The Last Jedi, the more I realize that he, out of like all of, like, out of Rian Johnson or out of J.J. Abrams, like, he definitely understands like the themes more than he does. Like, I don't know. It's just he has a very concrete and full understanding of Star Wars, and I really like the way that he is as a storyteller, and I just want to continue him, telling more stories, because I think he has the creative vision to make like really unique ones. And Christian, like, now you kind of spoiled it for me, because like if Rian Johnson doesn't create a trilogy that's set in the Star Wars future, I'm gonna be really freaking pissed.
Yeah, so like you brought up the Old Republic, because that's where my mind went also before we started brainstorming about the future. Because my asterisk was, if this is truly nothing we've seen before, like not counting EU, what is it? But in the modern canon, there is no Old Republic timeline, right? So like I'd be excited for that too. Like, I don't have a huge fondness for the Old Republic, so it would be new to me mostly. But
True. I mean, like, in all fairness, I'll be excited for any Star Wars like piece of media that comes out. But just like now, I just really want to see Star Wars, like future Star Wars. That's like what I want. So hopefully someday we get it, and hopefully Rian Johnson's working on it.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
Well, is there anything else that you want to bring up in terms of like what you want to see from Rian Johnson's trilogy? I feel like we kind of talked about it a lot, but
yeah, it'd be cool if he got people he's worked with in the past. You know, like it'd be cool to see. I don't think Joseph Gordon-Levitt acts anymore, but like maybe get him involved with something. Emily
Joseph
Blunt.
Gordon-Levitt doesn't act?
I don't think, every time I see him pop up now, it's like, hey, he's doing a cool creative thing or he's directing.
All
so
right.
I don't know.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, like he has a really good pool of people that he works with, so like bringing some of them in would be fun, I think. But
yeah, for sure. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up for the show. Christian, you're usually really better at taking us out to sea, so I'm gonna let you do that.
Sounds good. This show is available on youtube.com/joyclicks if you want the video version. It's also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your podcast service of choice if you want the audio version. And if you can rate a review on that platform, it would be greatly appreciated because it helps us out a ton. If you want to get involved further, though, patreon.com/joyclicks gives you the $1 and $5 tiers. $5 support gets you producer credit on this podcast and all of our podcasts, like Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton. So thank you very much. Mike, what's your Twitter? Where can people find you?
Oh, right, at Mike P. Connors on Twitter.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch, ChunTV too. And I think that's it for the week. As always, it's a pleasure, Mike.
As always, Christian.
Hopefully next week we have another buffet of Star Wars news to talk about, because there was a lot this week, so that was nice.
It was a lot this week, yeah. No, hopefully, even if we don't, Christian, it'll be a pleasure spending time just talking about Star Wars with you.
Absolutely. Well, until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.